The oak-paneled study smelled of old leather and secrets, the kind that clung to the heavy shelves of Grandmother Abigail's Philadelphia mansion. 3 days after we laid her to rest. The air was already thick with betrayal. My father, well, the man I'd thought was my father, stood there, his face twisted with venom. "You're not even her real granddaughter," Victor snarled, his voice slicing through the silence. "Only blood matters in this family. The fortune stays with us real Hendersons." I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. The room spun slightly. Those leather-bound classics staring down like jurors at a trial I hadn't signed up for. Abigail's portrait loomed above the fireplace, her sharp eyes seeming to judge us all. "What are you saying?" I whispered, barely audible over the roar in my chest. "Don't play dumb, Rachel," he snapped, pacing the worn Persian rug. "Your mother's dirty little secret's out. Abigail was obsessed with lineage. Once the lawyer proves you've got no Henderson blood, you're done." His glare flicked to the portrait, then back to me, cold and triumphant. "I'm Rachel Henderson, 27, and until 5 minutes ago, I believed Victor Henderson was my father. Now, standing in this Georgian relic of suburban wealth, I was unraveling a lie I'd lived my whole life. All I wanted was what Abigail had promised: fairness, a piece of her legacy. She'd called me her only granddaughter in our last talk about her estate, her voice warm with intent. But Victor? He'd always looked at me like I was a stain on the family name, a disappointment he couldn't scrub out. Now I knew why. "You can come to the will reading next week if you want," he sneered, waving a dismissive hand. "But don't expect a dime. I've already talked to Marcus about contesting anything that mentions you." Marcus Tate, his slick attorney buddy, was the kind of guy who'd sell his soul for a retainer fee. The thought of them scheming together sent ice down my spine. "I'll be there," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Abigail wanted me there." "Sentiment," he scoffed. "She always had a soft spot for you. Too bad the law doesn't care about feelings." He stormed out, leaving me sinking into Abigail's desk chair. My fingers traced the walnut surface where she'd penned letters and sealed her will, where she'd planned for me. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom: "We need to talk about Victor. Tonight. Alone." Dread coiled in my gut. If Victor wasn't my father, then who was? And why was this exploding now, days after Abigail's death and right before her fortune got carved up? Growing up a Henderson meant privilege wrapped in pressure. Our wealth, pharma patents, and smart investments had cushioned 3 generations in luxury. Victor, the eldest son, was the golden heir, primed to inherit the lion's share. His younger brother Ethan was the wild card, brilliant, restless, a doctor who ditched Philly for Seattle's research labs. Ethan's rare visits home stuck with me. His easy laugh, the way he'd listen like I mattered. Victor, though? He judged worth by trophies and titles. My brothers, Nathan and Liam, fit his mold, Nathan in the family business, Liam acing law school. Me? I was the letdown, too soft for his liking, despite my honors degree and a solid career in historical preservation. "She's got no Henderson grit," he'd muttered once, thinking I couldn't hear. I chalked it up to his old-school chauvinism. Until now, Abigail had been my refuge. She loved my passion for history, urging me to carve my own path. Sunday teas at her estate were my lifeline, her stories of family lore and quiet defiance against her era's rules. "A Henderson forges their own way, Rachel," she'd say. Her death at 86 left a void I couldn't fill, and losing my biggest ally made it worse. Victor's odd behavior since the funeral, whispered talks with Marcus, sharp looks when I spoke to relatives had seemed like grief. Now it reeked of something darker. Her last words to me, frail but fierce, echoed, "Trust your gut, Rachel. Things aren't always what they seem." I brushed it off as delirium. Now I wondered if she'd seen this storm coming. Mom waited at her favorite cafe, a cozy hideout where Hendersons could be nobodies. She looked fragile, her usual polish frayed, eyes hollow. "I never wanted you to hear it like this," she said, twisting her wedding ring. "Victor was cruel to throw it at you." "So it's true?" I asked, voice trembling. "He's not my father?" She nodded, tears, dagger-sharp tears in her eyes. "It's messier than Victor thinks." Over coffee, she spilled a tale that flipped my world. She and Ethan had been in love before Victor. Young, reckless, dreaming big. Ethan's fellowship pulled him to Seattle, and distance broke them. Lonely, she turned to Victor, who'd always hovered nearby. One weak moment sparked a fling she ended fast when she realized Ethan was her heart. Then she found out she was pregnant. I knew it was Ethan's, she said, voice shaking. The timing matched his last visit. But Victor swore you were his and Ethan was engaged by then. I didn't want to ruin his life. She said bitterly. I needed stability for you. Ethan came back to Philly years later, divorced and childless, burying himself in work. Did he know? I asked. No, she whispered. I couldn't tell him. It felt too late. Why's Victor spilling this now? Her face hardened. Abigail's will. He's terrified she left you something big. He's gotta prove you're not his to cut you out. But if I'm not his, I'm still Ethan's, she cut in. You're Abigail's granddaughter through him. Victor's digging his own grave. The twist was delicious. Victor's obsession with blood might just torch his own inheritance. What now? I asked Dizzy. What do you want, Rachel? Justice? Truth? Your share. I didn't know yet. The wound was raw, the stakes massive. But one thing clicked as we left. Victor wouldn't erase me for his gain. Next morning, I faced Ethan at his cluttered apartment, nerves buzzing. I'd kept it vague on the phone, family stuff before the will reading. Now, surrounded by journals and trinkets, I fumbled for words to shatter his reality. You okay, Rachel? He asked. Setting tea down. At 58, he was still striking. With dark eyes I suddenly saw in my own reflection. It's complicated, I started. Victor says he's not my dad. He's using it to block my inheritance. Ethan's cup paused midair. That's Victor, cold and cunning. What did your mom say? I spilled her story, watching his face shift. Nostalgia hurt, then a flicker of hope. I never knew. He said softly. She never told me. By the time I heard she'd married, it was over. He studied me. You think I'm your father? The timing fits. But Victor's pushing this no blood, no claim angle. His jaw tightened. Abigail named you in her will. He can't just erase that. He paced. We need a DNA test. Facts don't lie. We hit a private lab that day. Results due in 72 hours, cutting it close. As we swabbed, dread and thrill tangled inside me. Truth would rewrite everything. I called Abigail's lawyer, Leonard Price, next. Can't share details yet, he said. But Abigail was sharp as a tack. She knew what she wanted. When I pressed about my parentage, his poker face slipped. She saw everything, he hinted. Abigail knew. My edge sharpened until Marcus filed to delay the reading, citing identity disputes. Then Leonard landed in the hospital with pneumonia. Victor was boxing me out. Mom called, frantic. Victor knows you saw Ethan. He's raging. Be careful. He's dangerous when cornered. The DNA hit my inbox 2 days before the rescheduled reading. 99.99998%. Ethan was my father. Relief crashed into fury. I called him, his voice thick. I felt it when you asked. You've got your mom's smile in my eyes. We plotted our move. But that night, Marcus summoned me. His posh office screamed old money. Douglas is upset about your little test, he said, sliding over a waiver. $250,000 to ditch my claim. Take it. Abigail named me. I shot back. I'm Ethan's daughter, still her blood. There are trust complexities, he said, smug. Douglas will fight dirty. I walked out, resolve hardening. Then Ethan dropped a bomb. Victor's not a biological Henderson. Adopted. Abigail knew. The room tilted. Victor's blood crusade could ruin him. Does he know? I gasped. No. Our parents hid it. But the trust demands blood descent. He screwed himself. The will reading dawned bright and tense. Inside Abigail's mansion, family filled the dining room. Marcus led, oozing control. While Victor smirked across from me. We've got eligibility issues, Marcus began. The trust demands Henderson blood. Victor pounced. Rachel's not mine. DNA proves it. She's out. Murmurs erupted. My gut twisted. He'd swiped my DNA from a glass. That's illegal, Ethan snapped. Doesn't change facts, Marcus said. I countered with our test. Ethan's my father. I'm Abigail's granddaughter. Victor raged, but Ethan stood. The trust says Harold Henderson's blood. Victor's adopted. Abigail knew. Silence. Victor paled. Lies. I've got proof, Ethan said. Tossing down records. Then Leonard hobbled in, cane in hand. I'm here for Abigail's wishes. He unsealed her letter. If lineage is questioned, no, I knew Victor was adopted and Rachel is Ethan's. Blood matters, but so does character. Victor's cruelty voids his claim. My estate goes to Ethan and Rachel, my true blood. Victor lunged, wild-eyed. You promised blood counts. You did. I said coolly. I just held you to it. He bolted, threats trailing. Marcus slunk off, ruined. My brothers stammered apologies, tentative bridges. Mom hugged me, guilt easing. Ethan and I stayed in Abigail's study, mapping a future from the wreckage. Victor's own game undid him. Abigail's foresight won. And me? I got a father who wanted me, worth more than any fortune.